Today we're tackling something that's unfortunately become pretty common, cyberbullying. Trying to get a better understanding of, what it is, how it affects people, and most importantly, what we can actually do about it.
Yeah. It's a tough topic for sure.
It is. And I'll admit, I've heard the term cyberbullying like we all have, but I don't think I really grasped how serious it can be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might dismiss it as,
Yeah.
just kids being kids online, but it goes much deeper than that.
Okay. So how is cyberbullying different from the bullying we all kind of knew growing up? Is it just the same stuff but happening on phones and computers now?
I mean, there are definitely some similarities, but that digital element adds like a whole other layer of complexity. The thing about cyberbullying is it uses digital platforms like social media, texting, emails, online games, even to harass, threaten, or embarrass someone.
So it's like all the same stuff, but it's happening in this like digital world.
Right. And because it's online, it can reach a much wider audience and have a longer lasting impact than traditional bullying sometimes does.
That makes sense. I was thinking about this example that Alex and Maya gave in their podcast. That really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Well, imagine like a kid who's already dealing with all the stress of school, right? Maybe they're dealing with cliques or grades or whatever. Then they come home, and on top of everything else, they're bombarded with like nasty messages or rumors spreading online.
Ugh, like there's no escape.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like the bullying doesn't end when the school bell rings.
That's exactly it. It becomes relentless, following the victim everywhere.
And I imagine that takes a serious toll. Like, it's got to be more than just feeling sad or upset.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
The psychological effects of cyberbullying can be devastating. We're talking anxiety, depression, plummeting self-esteem.
Really?
Yeah. And the source even mentioned that victims are statistically more likely to experience suicidal thoughts
Yeah.
compared to those who haven't been cyberbullied.
Wow. That's heavy.
It is. And victims often describe feeling completely isolated and hopeless, which is, a recipe for serious mental health issues.
And because it's happening online, I imagine there's this pressure to keep it hidden, too.
Absolutely. Victims often suffer in silence because they're embarrassed or they're afraid of being judged.
They might worry that telling someone will make things worse, or even blame themselves for the bullying.
Right. And that's why it's so important for those around them to be aware of the warning signs.
So it's not enough to just know that cyberbullying is bad. We need to know the signs that someone's going through it so we can actually help.
Exactly. And Alex and Maya actually lay out 5 key warning signs in their podcast, things we can all look out for in our friends, family members, even coworkers.
Okay, so what's the first one?
The first one is a sudden shift in mood. Maybe someone who is usually pretty outgoing becomes withdrawn, anxious, or easily upset.
Oh, I see. It's like their whole energy just changes.
Yeah. And they might not want to hang out as much, or they lose interest in things they used to love.
Okay, so kind of withdrawing from things.
Right. And that withdrawal can extend to their online life, too.
Like how so?
Well, the second sign is avoiding social media or their phone. They might have been glued to their phone before, but now they're constantly putting it away or avoiding certain apps altogether.
That's a really good point because, we always hear about how teens especially, they use social media to express themselves and connect. So when someone who is very active online suddenly goes quiet, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, definitely something to pay attention to. And this withdrawal can also show up in their offline life, too. Which brings us to the third sign.
Okay, what's that?
Changes in their sleep or eating habits.
Ah, so the stress and anxiety can manifest physically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might have trouble sleeping, lose their appetite, or even start overeating as a way to cope.
Like their body's trying to tell them that something's wrong.
Yeah. And when someone's struggling emotionally, it often spills over into other areas of their life, like school or work.
Which brings us to the fourth sign.
Right. Their grades might drop. Or they lose interest in activities they used to be passionate about.
It's like they can't focus on anything else because they're so consumed by what's happening online.
Exactly. And the final warning sign that Alex and Maya talk about is becoming secretive about their online activity.
Oh, okay. So like hiding their phone or something.
Yeah, they might be hiding their phone,
Yeah.
closing browser windows quickly, or getting defensive when asked about what they're doing online.
It's like they're ashamed or scared of what someone might see.
Right, and they might even think they did something to deserve this treatment.
Which is just heartbreaking.
It is. And that's why approaching them with compassion and understanding is so important. If you notice any of these signs, let them know you're there for them and encourage them to talk about what's going on.
Sometimes just knowing that someone cares and is willing to listen can make all the difference.
It really can. It's that first step towards getting help.
Yeah.
and breaking the cycle of silence.
Okay, so we've talked about the impact on the victim, but what about the people around them, like their family and friends?
Well, it's important to remember that the impact of cyberbullying extends beyond the victim. It can create a lot of tension within families, leading to arguments, strained relationships, and just a general sense of unease at home.
Like this ripple effect where the negativity spreads outward.
Exactly. And while we often focus on the victim, it's also important to acknowledge that cyberbullying can have consequences for the bullies themselves.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, their actions can lead to disciplinary action at school, social isolation, and even legal repercussions.
So it's not just about protecting the victims, it's about understanding that the bully might be struggling too.
Right. In some cases, engaging in cyberbullying can actually be an indicator of underlying emotional or psychological issues that need to be addressed.
Wow. So it really is a complex issue with deep roots. It's not just kids being kids.
Exactly. It's something we need to take seriously and address from multiple angles.
Yeah, yeah, it really is.
Right.
And it can be tough to figure out how to actually help, but thankfully, Alex and Maya offer some really practical advice for anyone who's being cyberbullied. Yeah, like it's easy to just say tell an adult, but they give more specific steps that I think are super helpful.
Totally. Their first piece of advice is to resist the urge to engage with the bully.
That's hard.
It is. It's natural to want to defend yourself or fire back, but responding often just makes things worse.
It's like they say don't feed the trolls, but that's easier said than done when you're upset.
Definitely. But in most cases, disengaging is the most effective way to kind of de-escalate the situation.
Okay, so what's next?
The next step they suggest is to use the tools that online platforms provide, like blocking and reporting the bully.
Yeah. It's empowering to remember that we're not powerless in these situations.
Right. Every platform has its own reporting process, so taking a few minutes to learn how to use those tools can really make a difference.
Definitely. It's about taking back some control.
Exactly. And speaking of control, the third tip is to save the evidence.
Oh, taking screenshots and stuff?
Yep, taking screenshots of the harassing messages or posts can be crucial if you need to report the cyberbullying to the school, the police, or even the platform itself.
It's like creating a digital paper trail.
Exactly. And their final and maybe most important piece of advice is to confide in someone you trust.
Okay, so a parent, a teacher, a counselor, a close friend.
Anyone you feel comfortable talking to.
Because you don't have to go through this alone.
Right. Sometimes just saying it out loud can help.
It can take away some of the power that it has over you.
Exactly. And by speaking up, you might even help others who are going through the same thing, but are too afraid to say anything.
That's a great point. So what about the people who see cyberbullying happening to someone else? What can we do besides just scrolling past?
Well, Alex and Maya talk about being an upstander, not a bystander.
Okay, I like that. But what does that actually look like?
Well, it can take many forms. But one thing you can do is offer support to the person being targeted. Let them know you see what's happening and that you're there for them.
Yeah, just knowing that someone cares can make a huge difference.
And you can also report the harassing content to the platform where it's taking place.
Right. Those reports actually do matter.
They do. They help the platforms identify and remove harmful content.
And then if it feels safe, you can also call out the bully's behavior publicly.
Yeah, sometimes that can make them think twice.
Right.
Especially if they see that other people don't approve of their actions.
So it's about taking a stand and saying that this behavior isn't okay.
Exactly. And while individual actions are important, Alex and Maya also emphasize the need for broader efforts to combat cyberbullying, like at a societal level.
Okay, what do they suggest?
Well, they advocate for things like school-wide anti-bullying policies that specifically address online harassment.
Those policies are a good starting point, but they have to be more than just words on paper.
Absolutely. They need to be actively enforced and updated as technology changes.
Right, because the ways that people bully online are constantly evolving.
Exactly. Along with that,
Yeah.
it's crucial to have open and honest conversations about internet safety and digital citizenship.
Okay, so those conversations need to happen at home, in schools, within communities.
Everywhere. It's not just about teaching kids how to use technology. It's about teaching them how to use it responsibly and respectfully.
It's about fostering empathy, critical thinking,
Hmm.
and a sense of responsibility for our online actions.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the internet is an extension of our real-world communities.
And the same rules of decency and respect should apply online as they do offline. It's about creating a better world online, right? Like, the internet should be a place where everyone feels safe and respected.
Yeah, totally. And, Alex and Maya, they made this point in their podcast that really stuck with me. They said cyberbullying is a real problem.
Yeah.
And its effects can be life-changing.
And in some cases, even life-ending, right?
Yeah, sadly, that's true. But they also emphasize that we can work together to create a safer, more positive online world.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom.
No, not at all. There are a lot of good things happening online, too, and it's important to focus on those.
I like that. It's about choosing to amplify the positive.
Exactly. Choosing to be a part of the solution.
So, what would you say to someone listening right now who wants to be a part of that solution? What can they actually do?
Well, Alex and Maya ended their podcast with this thought-provoking question. What steps can you take right now to contribute to a safer and more supportive online environment?
I like that. It's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
Yeah, and I think it starts with awareness. Educating ourselves about cyberbullying, talking to our kids about it.
And even just being more mindful of our own online behavior.
Exactly, because every little bit counts. And if you or someone you know is struggling with cyberbullying, remember, you're not alone. There are resources out there.
Reach out to a trusted adult, a school counselor, or one of the many organizations dedicated to combating cyberbullying.
We'll include some helpful links in the show notes.
Awesome. So to everyone listening out there, please remember, you don't have to suffer in silence. Speak up, seek support.